You think you know Starbucks. The cozy corner cafe, the morning ritual, the hum of espresso machines that feels like home. But beneath the comforting aroma of roasted beans and recycled playlists, something darker is brewing. Starbucks just fired thousands of workers, quietly dismantling the image it spent decades perfecting. The smiling barista, the warm cup, the promise of connection, all of it is being rewritten in the name of efficiency. And the truth behind it isn't just about coffee. It's about what happens when corporate America decides that people are the most expendable ingredient in its recipe for profit. It began with a memo that felt more like a eulogy. Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol announced that nearly 1,000 corporate jobs and hundreds of store positions would be cut as part of a transformation plan. On paper, it sounded clinical: restructuring, realignment, streamlining. But in the hallways of Seattle and the break rooms of small-town stores, the news landed like a thunderclap. Baristas who once called themselves partners were suddenly statistics in a spreadsheet. The same company that prided itself on human connection over transactions was now reducing humans to transactions themselves. Starbucks framed it as progress. The company claimed it needed to evolve, to invest where it matters most. Those words, polished, rehearsed, intentionally vague, are the kind corporate America loves. But when you strip away the PR gloss, what they really mean is this: the profit margins aren't what Wall Street wants, so the people have to pay. Starbucks profits didn't collapse, they shifted. Costs rose, wages grew, and shareholders started asking questions. And when that happens, the solution is never to look upward, it's to look downward. In the neighborhoods where stores are closing, the layoffs feel like the end of something much bigger than a job. Starbucks has always sold more than caffeine, it sold belonging. The green aprons, the community boards, the barista who remembers your name. It was the illusion of warmth in a cold economy. But now, as stores shutter and staff vanish, the illusion is breaking. For every corporate statement about modernizing the customer experience, there's a single mother losing her income, a student losing healthcare, a community losing its meeting place. It's not just layoffs. It's erosion, slow, quiet, devastating. Inside headquarters, the message was clear. This was about the future. The company said it needed to focus on the customer, to build next-generation stores, and invest in digital innovation. But those are buzzwords for a deeper shift, a shift away from people toward systems. Starbucks' future, it seems, is one where your coffee order is predicted by an algorithm. Your barista is one of 3 overworked staff members on a morning rush, and your sense of community has been replaced by a self-checkout kiosk glowing in LED green. Efficiency looks good on an earnings call. It feels cold in real life. The layoffs didn't happen in isolation. They arrived at the same moment Starbucks has been battling an internal war, a growing movement of workers demanding union rights, fair pay, and basic dignity. Across the country, baristas have organized strikes, protests, and social campaigns to expose unsafe conditions, unpredictable scheduling, and retaliation. For years, Starbucks painted itself as a progressive employer, the kind that listens, the kind that cares. But when workers spoke up, the company reached for lawyers, not empathy. Now, as layoffs spread, many inside the company wonder whether this restructuring is a retribution in disguise. In the official narrative, Starbucks says no, that store closures and job cuts are purely strategic, driven by performance data and customer trends. But union organizers tell a different story. They claim that many of the shuttered stores share one thing in common: a workforce that dared to organize. Coincidence, Starbucks says. Pattern, the workers say. And as the number of closed unionized stores climbs, the pattern looks harder and harder to ignore. When a company begins trimming the branches that make noise, you have to ask what kind of tree it's trying to grow. To understand why Starbucks is doing this, you have to look at what's happening in corporate boardrooms across America. Interest rates are high, consumer spending is slowing, and the pandemic's cheap money era is over. Investors are nervous. Wall Street is impatient. And that impatience trickles down the supply chain until it lands on the person steaming milk for a $6 latte. In boardrooms, this is called cost optimization. In real life, it's called a layoff. And while executives frame it as a painful necessity, the pain is never distributed equally. Shareholders get dividends. Workers get pink slips. Even as Starbucks cuts jobs, its top executives aren't tightening their belts. CEO Brian Niccol, who came from Chipotle, is tasked with reinventing Starbucks' identity, and he's being paid millions to do it. Meanwhile, the people who make that identity real, the baristas, the shift leads, the store managers, are being told to do more with less. Fewer hours, fewer teammates, fewer benefits. In some cities, stores are operating with skeleton crews. But Wall Street applauds the move, the stock ticks upward, and the company celebrates its commitment to shareholder value. The irony is almost bitter enough to skip the espresso shot. There's a phrase that keeps appearing in Starbucks memos: back to Starbucks. It sounds nostalgic, almost comforting, like a return to roots. But what does it mean to go back to a place that no longer exists? The company that once called itself a third place, a refuge between home and work, has become something else entirely. Starbucks used to be about slowing down. Now it's about throughput, about automation, about moving bodies and coffee faster. Somewhere along the line, the company that taught America to savor turned into one that measures success by speed. And yet, Starbucks still insists this is for the greater good, that the cuts today will pave the way for a stronger tomorrow. Maybe that's true. In the short term, the balance sheets will look cleaner. The analysts will write glowing forecasts. But the cost of losing trust, morale, and identity is harder to calculate. Once a brand soul is compromised, no amount of digital innovation can fix it. You can redesign stores, reinvent drinks, or install new machines, but you can't automate authenticity. And Starbucks built its empire on authenticity, or at least the illusion of it. Let's be honest, the illusion was always fragile. For years, Starbucks has walked a fine line between boutique cafe culture and corporate scalability. It wanted to feel local while being global, to act personal while being automated. But every expansion, every investor call, every new cost-cutting initiative pulled it further from the warmth that made people care in the first place. These layoffs don't just mark a financial shift, they mark the moment the mask slips. Starbucks isn't a coffee house anymore. It's a logistics company that happens to sell coffee. The human touch is just a marketing campaign. There's something poetic and tragic about a company that once preached community, now dismantling its own. When Starbucks closes a store, it doesn't just turn off a machine. It extinguishes a small social ecosystem. The morning regulars who exchanged smiles. The baristas who learn names and favorite orders. The quiet corners where freelancers built dreams and strangers became friends. All of it gone, not because it failed, but because it wasn't optimized. That word, optimization, has become the polite assassin of modern labor. It kills slowly, invisibly, and always with a smile. The people paying the price for Starbucks' new direction aren't the ones who made the decisions. They're the ones who made the lattes, swept the floors, kept the stores alive during a pandemic that nearly broke the industry. When everything shut down, Starbucks called them heroes. When the market tightened, it called them overhead. It's the same story playing out across corporate America, a pattern of praise followed by betrayal. And yet, every time it happens, the companies act surprised when loyalty fades and unions rise. It's worth remembering that Starbucks' success wasn't built in boardrooms, it was built in neighborhoods. In the everyday gestures of people who believed they were part of something bigger than a paycheck. When you walk into a Starbucks, you're not just buying coffee. You're buying comfort, predictability, a tiny ritual of normalcy. And when that illusion shatters, when the people behind the counter are anxious, overworked, or gone, customers feel it too. A company can only cut so deep before the wound becomes visible to everyone. Financially, the layoffs might work, at least temporarily. The company will save hundreds of millions in operational costs. Its quarterly earnings might rebound. Investors might call it a necessary correction. But long-term stability isn't just about numbers. It's about trust. When a brand like Starbucks alienates the very people who sustain it, the damage compounds quietly, like a hairline crack in glass. You might not see it at first, but under enough pressure, it will shatter. And that's the danger here. Starbucks leadership believes it can automate empathy. That an app, a loyalty program, or a seasonal drink can replace genuine connection. But the very thing that made Starbucks powerful, its humanity, is what it's now erasing. You can't algorithm your way to community. You can't code warmth into a mobile order. You can't fire thousands of people and still claim to be a company that values partners. You can't talk about sustainability when your own workforce feels disposable. The contradictions are catching up, and the world is starting to notice. The story of Starbucks layoffs isn't just about one company. It's about an era. We're watching the service economy eat itself alive, one pink slip at a time. From tech giants to retail chains, the message is the same. Workers are numbers, not names. But every number has a story, and every story has a breaking point. What Starbucks is facing now, the backlash, the protests, the skepticism, is what happens when a brand forgets that its greatest asset was never coffee but people. As the dust settles, Starbucks will present this as a rebirth, a new chapter. Maybe they'll unveil sleek new stores with digital kiosks and minimalist decor. Maybe they'll release a heartfelt commercial about evolving together. But behind the soft music and slow-motion pours, thousands of workers will still be wondering why loyalty only flows one way. The public relations team can spin progress, but you can't rebrand the feeling of being replaced. So the next time you walk into a Starbucks, take a look around. The lights, the music, the smell of espresso. It's all designed to feel the same. But if you look closer, you'll see something missing. The laughter behind the counter, the barista who knew your name, the sense that you were part of something human. That's what's being lost in the name of efficiency. That's what the layoffs really cost. And that's something no corporate turnaround can ever buy back. Thanks for watching Financial Focus, where we follow the money and uncover the truth behind it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next story they don't want you to see.